Off-leash recall is a big thing for you. So pretty much just like obedience type stuff.
Yeah, mostly obedience, off-leash recall, and then like confidence. She's a little skittish.
Yeah,
and then,
I can see she's a little nervous.
Yeah, and then like elevators in the building. She doesn't love when like I open the elevator and there's a dog waiting to come on.
Okay.
She like gets a little.
Does she
bark.
react, or is she just like standoffish?
She reacts a little bit. She barks a little bit. She's never like bitten or been aggressive, but she like barks kind of.
Okay. How old is she?
1.5.
Okay. And is she currently in heat?
Yeah, she just started her heat Monday. We're getting spayed in a couple months,
Okay.
but yeah.
Are you delaying for like, so she can grow, or is it just like?
It was just like my work schedule and timeline. I just wanted to kind of wait. I wanted to wait till she was like 1 or had her first heat. She had her first heat, and then with my work schedule, I wanted to wait till I could get like.
2 was actually healthier than that.
Yeah, I wanted to wait till I could take like a week off and just like chill with her at home.
Oh, see, I got you.
Yeah.
Okay.
So I work in person. I usually come home at lunch just to do a quick. Come here, sit. But yeah, so she's home all day, and then also the last thing is I wanted to work on like her barking when she hears people in the hallways.
Okay. Her barking to the sounds in the hallway, would you say, is it like all the time? Is it getting better?
It's getting a little better.
Okay.
But it's most of the time. It's more so when people are like talking and being loud in the hallways.
Sure.
If it's just like a door closing, she's fine, but.
Okay. Have you done any training yourself already?
Just maybe a little bit myself, but.
Not with like another trainer?
No.
Okay. I'm assuming you're using food. Mm-hmm. Okay. What did she learn with the food?
Well, I mean, this is a very bad environment. Come here. Sling, come here. So we're trying to work on them all. Come here. Ready, heel.
Okay.
Ready, middle. Sling, can you middle? Nice, good middle. Ready, down. Slink, down. Maybe if I face you.
Yeah, she's distracted there.
Slink, sit. Slink. Another dog. Slink, down.
Good.
Down. Stay.
So like the basic stuff.
Basics.
Mm-hmm. And is this just stuff you taught her yourself, or did you watch like YouTube videos?
I taught her myself, but honestly, I kind of found you like since before I've had her, because I was a big fan of Maddie and Rudder.
Oh yeah.
Social media.
Yeah.
So the goal is that Rudder come and sprints to me, but
Yeah.
I live right by Washington Square Park.
Oh, okay. That's the
So-
one that's like kind of downtownish.
Yeah, and it's just like that block, but it's kind of open. And sometimes I'll take her out. I don't really do like the dog park part, but I'll take her out like late night. And I used to get like a glow in the dark ball just to get some running out of the way. I would have the leash on like this, and she would go get it and come back and I'd grab the leash. And then I'd wait a minute, make sure nothing's around, throw it again. She'd go get it, come back, like
Okay.
that.
Sure.
And she was pretty good. But like 2 weeks ago, I did that once, and I threw the ball and I threw it, and I realized I threw it right towards a bunny.
Oh.
So I wanted to be more neutral with squirrels and bunnies.
Okay, so
Like,
she has prey drive.
yeah, birds,
Gotcha.
she's fine. I don't know about geese. Regular pigeons and birds, she's fine. But like, she chased the bunny like across the street because the bunny went towards a bush, and that like freaked me out. I got
Sure.
like I was hoping we could even maybe train with like, I got this like e-collar.
Will you pull? Let me see. So it's a good brand because it's the brand I use.
Okay.
280X. Okay.
I don't know. I could even return it if you have a recommendation.
When did you buy this?
I got it from the actual Dog Tour website like a week ago.
Okay, so it should be within a return range. How much does she weigh?
42 pounds.
42. Okay. So I'll explain more. Technically speaking, yes, you can use this. Okay, but then I'll go more into detail. I'll educate you a bit, and then I'll leave it up to your judgment. Okay.
Okay.
Anything else?
Not that I can think of right now.
Are you familiar with the technology is?
Kind of, yeah.
What do you understand so far from a remote collar?
More so that it's just like building on top of, I want to like proof it myself first.
Okay.
And
But
then that we can do like the beep and the vibrate instead of like the full shock.
Okay.
I wanted one that had like waterproof because
Uh-huh.
she loves water. Go to like the dog beach sometimes, but yeah,
Do you know what the human equivalent of that is?
no.
Have you ever been to a chiropractor or physical therapist?
No, but I'm familiar.
They have this thing called a TENS unit, TNS. It's like got circles, and then there's like a wire that attaches to the circle, and they put it like, let's say you had lower back pain. They put those circles on your lower back. They would turn the system on, and it would start to move your muscles. Okay, so that's the technology.
Okay.
A lot of people look at it as electric shock. That's false. It's just a muscle stimulator.
Okay.
So if you go to Walgreens and you look in the back pain section, you'll see the machines, and they're called TENS units, TNS. And they use it all the time in chiropractic offices, physical therapist offices. They use a lot in sports therapy. They even have it now where there's like a needle attached to the wire so that the needle can dig deeper into your muscle tissue and then stimulate like the actual spot they need to make contact with. So that's the same thing. It's just on a collar. It's a miniaturized version of it.
Okay.
Also, with the human versions, like you want to keep them away from water, whereas these ones, as you noted, they can be waterproof.
Okay.
The tone and the vibrate, in my theory of training, have no function.
Gotcha.
Okay. And the reason is, most people would think like, I'm going to give a command, it's going to be tone, vibrate, and then the stim. Okay. And what that does is it creates a delay. Is now the dog knows I can ignore the command, I can ignore the tone, I can ignore the vibrate, and then the stim would happen. So they learn I can delay 5 seconds, right? So if she's running towards the street, the last thing you want is her to delay
Yeah.
5 seconds. Does
Yeah.
that make sense? So what I'm going to have you do here for her, because she's kind of edgy, is she clipped to her harness or her flat collar?
Harness.
We're going to flip to her flat collar. So you're going to switch your leash to your flat collar. And then when you leave, you can put it back to her harness. That's perfectly fine. And what you're going to do here is you're going to lightly pull up on your leash. So you can have a seat. You're going to lightly pull up on your leash, and you're going to press down on her hindquarters, okay? Yep. Yep, up and down, up and down. Push, push, push.
Sit.
A little bit of resistance. Yep.
Sit. Come here, sit.
Is she really pushing back?
Yeah.
May I? Okay. She might, because she's nervous, she might get a little spooky here, okay? Good. So here, what we're doing is I could say sit, right? But sit is going to go out the window right now. Why? Because she's nervous. Okay, there's a lot going on. We got construction outside. We have my son's upstairs, so that's probably what that sound is rolling up on the floor there. We got my staff rolling through, right? We had my wife going up the stairs and coming down with her dog. So she's really kind of, not overwhelmed, but she's stressing.
Yeah.
Okay, and that's where that barking is coming from, because she's like, where am I? What's going on? And it's not aggressive, right? But she's kind of alerting, like, hey, like, I don't know what to do here, okay? So obedience is exactly what that is, just like sit, like perform a task, right? Behavior, this will technically for me be behavior, okay? This particular moment, because I can see that she's stressing out, I can see she's becoming nervous, right? And it's pushing her over threshold, so that's why we're getting the barking. So here, yes, I'm making her sit, but I'm not telling her to sit. What do you think I'm telling her on a deeper level?
That we're okay.
Yeah, we're okay to relax, right? You're relaxed, I'm relaxed, but she's not relaxed, right? So if we can't influence the dog ourselves, meaning like, for example, my Pitty, who I've had since she was 3 months, I have a lot of influence over her. So if I sit down and chill, she's 15 now, she just sits down and chills. Like she lays down, she's like, okay, right? And then if I'm active, she's active. Like she replicates what I'm giving her, if that makes sense. But if I get a dog like this, who isn't my dog, right, that I need to influence, words go out the window, right? And instead I'm using what's called pressure to guide her into a sitting position, which would ultimately help her relax, okay? So at some point, the longer I have her, I expect her to lay down. She's probably gonna lay down for a couple of minutes and she's gonna pop back up again because again, the setting. But then I would do it all over. And then she'd lay down again and then she'd probably lay for 5 minutes. Like it'd be a little bit longer, right? So then if this became my dog, who I would influence over the course of days and weeks and stuff, you would start to see just even that would start to impact her kind of personality-wise, because she's realizing, okay, cool, like I don't need to be stressed out. I know I can relax, if that makes sense. Okay, so this isn't really stuff that I teach in my training programs unless the client were to ask for it. This is just so that you understand. Okay, when it comes to nervous dogs, we cannot take the nervousness out of them. Okay, but we can help them learn how to handle it better. And I can help you learn how do you handle and live with a nervous dog, right? It's just what we would call genetics. And this is more common than you would think. Like every animal, in my opinion, is geared towards a certain emotion. There's people that are easily become more anxious, right? Or there's even people that are easily scared, right? And then and we all feel these emotions at some point. But there's certain people, certain dogs that kind of teeter more a certain way, if that makes sense, right? And that's, again, just genetics. So I have a dog right now who's probably the worst case I've seen in 15 years, who when we go outside, he's scared of everything. Okay, and this is just really bad genetics. He's a Bernese Mountain Dog. If you look at him, right, like he's already 10 months and he's like half the size of a Bernese, okay? So right away, that's one red flag. The other red flag is his legs. If you look at his legs, they don't look right, okay? Third thing, obviously, is just his temperament. Like he is scared of everything. We could be, with the train here, we could be half a mile away, and as long as he can hear the train, he'll still be scared, okay? So I told the owner, I can only do so much here because this is clearly genetic. We can definitely make progress, but this is not one day gonna be a normal dog. Right? Like you have to learn how to live with the specific dog, This for me is what I see on a regular basis. It's okay for a dog to become nervous. It's okay for a dog to become anxious, right? But when it starts to happen a lot, where they're unable to come back down to passiveness, then that's when things become unhealthy, And there's no guarantee of how these things play out. But typically it's the dog starts to begin to exhibit the behaviors, right? And the more they practice them, the more they exhibit them, the more it becomes who they are. And then gradually over the course of time, they're more reactive, or more things trigger them into nervousness and things like that, okay? Question on any of that stuff? Nope. So here, we see her starting to calm down a little, right? I'm completely relaxed. I'm not holding her here against her will, But when she gets up, you see me repeat this little process here, right? So what I'm doing is I'm countering the brain. Right now, if she's stressed, the brain wants to move. That's also anxiety, because anxiety wants to move, right? But so I've learned that we typically go opposite to the brain. If the brain wants to move, we make the brain sit still. If the brain wants to sit still, we make the brain move. Okay, it's a tiny little concept, but it means a lot when you're dealing with behavioral things, okay? So here, right, that big loud sound happens, and then she moves. And also, she's a lot easier for me to begin to go into sitting position. The moment she gives me what I'm looking for, everything stops. Okay, so the pull up and the press down like you were doing, right? And if you look at my hand, I'm doing this, and I'm not pushing on her hind, I'm doing this on her hindquarters, okay? So I am putting pressure. The reason is, are you familiar with Cesar Milan, the dog whisperer? No? He had a TV show probably many years back now. But this is his technique. And his theory is, communicating to a dog using teeth, right? So I'm not going to bite her, but I can replicate teeth in a way by using my hands like this, right? So that's why if you go flat-handed, dogs are more likely to resist. Whereas if you go with fingertips like this and you do the same thing that you were doing, a lot of times they'll respond much better to that, okay? So this is me communicating to her in her way as much as I can, chill, okay? So going back to the concept of pressure, that's how remote collar works. Okay, so that particular one I believe has 100 levels, from 0 to 1 in increments of 1. right? Most dogs fall between 25 to 35 on a particular collar if it's the one that's correct for them, okay? Because there's different outputs. There's you can think of it as low, medium, high, and high. So 5 different outputs. So a low-powered collar, 100 on that collar could be, 50 on a high-powered collar, right? So if I have a dog on a high-powered collar, it just means we have more wiggle room. Okay, it doesn't mean that it's going to be that much worse for the dog or anything like that. So I could take a high-powered collar, I could put on my Chihuahua who's 8 pounds. He would be perfectly fine. His number would just be ridiculously low. Okay, but technically he would be on the low-powered collar because he's only an 8-pound dog. Okay, so that's how all those things work. That one there, I'm not too familiar with it as that's a newer model, but I believe that's a medium output collar. Okay, the only time output is super important, right? Is I tell clients, you want to think of things in a worst case scenario. If I'm in a worst case scenario and I don't have the correct collar for the dog, we're not going to be able to address the situation. Okay, they're going to what we call override the collar, and it does happen. I have a dog right now, actually, the Otto, who's the Bernese I was talking about. He's on a high-powered collar, and I told the client this during the consultation. Because we were at Oz Park and he was spazzing out. And Oz Park is quite a bit away from the CT train, but you can still hear it. And he was freaking out because he could still hear it. Okay, so I told her this is really bad. He's going to be on a high output collar for sure. Possibly he might even need 2 collars because he's so overwhelmed. He's so scared of everything. Okay, the first day he's here for 4-week boarding training. He's on his 4th week now. On the first day of me trying to work with him, because I train right here, and the train's obviously right there, he overrode the collar. So I was maxed out, and he could care less about it, okay? So I went, paired the second collar. Well, I called the owner, told her, hey, that's what I said. Are you okay with this? She said, yes. I was okay. Get a second collar. So all it means is now it's one remote that goes to 2 collars at the same time. So it doubles the amount of pressure. And he's still high. His number's like 90 on a double collar. But if he gets really, really stressed out, like it's maxed out. But he's now able to come back to reality because he would get so flighty. He would become so fearful of the environment, like there was no getting through to him. So I need something that's going to override all of the world. Okay, and this is the first time in 15 years of training dogs where I told a client, your dog needs a double collar, like just because they need it. I've used double collars in the past, typically for aggression. 150-pound dogs, and it's specific to the moment. And then once we address the issue, I go, cool, we don't need it anymore. We're just on a singular collar. So it's happened like 10 times in 15 years. But this is the first time in 15 years where I was like, this dog needs it just because it needs it all the time. Okay, but that's where output comes into play. If he was on a low power out collar, I could put like 5 of them, and he would be like, nah, I don't care about any of these things. So if we take Slinky, right? If we take Slinky, let's say you're at the park. We already know she's a nervous dog, okay? And then in the environment, there's a big loud bang, or there's a kid that finds a firework and sets it off, which is like the most common thing that happens to people. And it blows up and it spooks her, right? Now we have to think she's in fear mode, she's in flight mode, right? As I need something that's gonna override both those things and get the dog to go against instinct. Because it's against instinct for her to run towards danger. Right, so if you're at the park and she's like, uh-oh, and she takes off on you and you go, come, right? That's technically not an obedience mode, that's behavior mode. She's running for her life. So we need something that's gonna be an incentive for her, enough for her to think like, okay, that's big and scary. I wanna run from that, but this thing is telling me I'm not supposed to, and I have to go against my instinct and run back to my mom, right? So that's the situation that's the most common that can happen to people, and that's where output matters, okay? So technically speaking, that collar is the appropriate collar for her, because she's a medium-sized dog, okay? But then I just go, it is possible that if you're met with that situation, you may not be able to override. And I don't know until like you're in the thick of it, okay? So that's my only comment on that. Otherwise, technically speaking, yes, it's the appropriate collar, okay? So my recommendation always is spend a few bucks more, get the one where it's like I don't even have to worry about it, okay? And all it means is, let's say her number on there was 40. Then on the high-powered collar, her number would be 30. It just gives you more wiggle room. And in this case, this way in the future, if something did happen, you have the highest chance of like I can still return my dog even though she's running for her life. Okay. But yeah, it catches people off guard because everybody always thinks about like, oh, chasing squirrels, recall my dog, or like, just walking my dog around the neighborhood. And that's 99% of life, right? But then I go, what about that 1%? We're caught off guard. I've even had clients' dogs that were attacked by off-leash dogs. And they were able to recall their dog away from the fight because they had something that was like, you need to leave what's happening right now and run to me instead. I've had clients come across coyote in the city. Lincoln Park in particular, there's coyote out there. And you wouldn't think it because you're like, oh, we're in the city, but they're out there. I had one client, his wife hated the e-collar. They were walking with their dog off leash through Lincoln Park. They were having a conversation, and then when they looked, their dog was nose to nose with a coyote. Okay. Now he just recalled his dog, and his dog turned on a dime. He didn't have to do anything with the remote, right? But he's like, one, he was thankful that he had done the training because his wife was completely against the remote collar. Two, he's like, honestly, I wasn't worried because I knew like even if he did ignore, like I had this thing that was gonna go, you're gonna return to me right now, So it's those kind of rare moments is when people come back and they go, I'm so happy I did remote collar training because I don't know what I would have done in these kind of crazy scenarios. Okay, question on any of that?
No.
No. The other difference would be the collar I'd recommend has 127 levels. So all that means is there's more variants. Okay, so old school e-collars had like 3 levels. Okay, so think of 3 on an old e-collar as 100 under e-collar. So the jumps between 1, 2, and 3 were far greater, which is part of where the term shock collar comes from because it was shocking to the dog because the jumps were so high. There was no avoiding it. But then also it comes from, in the dog training world, there's a lot of drama. There's positive only, and then there's trainers like myself. And in the positive only front, they don't want people to use e-collars or prong collars. So they use words like pain, torture, shock, electrocution as a means of deterring people because no one wants to electrocute their dog. But once you actually educate yourself on what the technology is, you're like, oh, like they use this on humans all the time. And if you put it on your hand, and I even have a video on my website underneath the consultation form where I compare a TENS unit to an e-collar. The only difference is how the TENS unit is delivered. A TENS unit is continuous. It moves the muscle as long as you leave it on because it's meant to relax the muscle, ease muscle pain, whatever, right? Whereas this is momentary. This is just when I need to communicate with the dog or in the beginning stages when we're training, right? Otherwise, if the dog's doing everything great, then I go, I don't need to do anything with the collar, okay? But they feel exactly the same. It's just one is repeated and then this one's just momentary. This one does have a continuous option. I'm not sure if this particular model does, but I would think it would, meaning as long as you hold the button down, the dog would feel something. And the moment you release, it would stop. So if it goes up to 12 seconds, but then it caps out, you'd have to release and press it again in order for it to repeat. But if you hold for 2 seconds, Slinky would feel 2 seconds of stimulation, and then it would stop. We use that 0.01%. It's in those emergency situations, right? It's, uh-oh, Slinky's running away, and she's just ignored the tap at 80. So I'm gonna max it out and hit the continuous button because I need to override the situation. Is typically where that button would come into play. But I use the NIC function, which is a pre-timed sensation, like it's like that, which even if you hold the button down, once that happens, nothing else is gonna happen until you press it again. Okay, questions on that? So when it comes to conditioning, first thing we always teach is heel. Okay, heel has to happen. It allows us to layer the e-collar in a non-confrontational way, which is walking the dog, right? And essentially it's teaching her how it turns on and how it turns off. This is super important. If we don't condition properly, that's where dogs potentially become worse because they don't understand how it operates, okay? Unfortunately, just because a trainer uses e-collar does not mean they know how to use it correctly. I have had to retrain plenty of dog from trainers in the Chicago area that don't condition it correctly, okay? I just did one that did a 2-week board and train a week ago. And then she's like, yeah, he's been e-collar trained, but he still pulls, he still does all this stuff. And then I trained him, and then she shot me an email because she had questions. She's like, his heel's the best it's ever been. I go, great, because I know how to condition it correctly, okay? So we will start with heel first. And were you looking for like in person or like a board and train type option?
I think in person.
Okay, so if we did in person, you'd show up, class 1, you have Slinky, you have your system, right? I coach you through everything, okay? I don't need to touch the dog. In the class, here's your homework, rinse and repeat. I'll see you in a week, okay? You come back in a week, you give me feedback. That feedback then tells me if I need to adjust anything, right? Do we need to lower the level? Do we need to increase the level, whatever? We do the second half of heal. It's a two-part, it's a 2-lesson command. Go off and do your homework. Come back. More feedback, right? And you might even notice, like, you know, her nervousness in the beginning spiked, but now it dropped because nervousness is a stress response. E-collar is a stressor, right? So because we're putting her under controlled stress, we're going to see her nervousness a little bit, but because we're working her through it, she's learning how to handle it better. So that's what I was mentioned earlier, right? She learns how to handle her nervousness better. You learn how to handle a nervous dog, okay? And that's actually how we build confidence.
Yeah.
So people think confidence is like, you know, maybe stress the dog a little bit and give them lots of praise if they did well. Confidence is actually built through putting them under stress and then getting them to work through it on their own as much as possible. And then once they get to the other side, they realize, like, oh, I did it, right? That's actually what builds the confidence. Dogs build confidence in their puppies by nipping and biting them, but people don't do that. Right? When we get a puppy at 2 months, it's usually like, let the puppy be a puppy. They run around, they're being obnoxious, right? They're being annoying, whatever. People don't bite their puppies, but then that's why they don't learn how to handle stress. That's why they don't learn, that's why they don't toughen up, okay? So, e-collar in a way is us being able to bite the dog. It is, in my opinion, as close to a dog bite as we can get without actually causing any kind of physical harm to the dog. Have you ever seen a prong collar?
Yes.
The spiky one? Do you know why it looks that way?
When they pull, it puts pressure on them.
It puts pressure, right? But why do you think it looks the way it looks?
I don't know.
It's meant to mimic the dog bite. Teeth, right? But if you were to see it, if you don't know that, it looks menacing.
Yeah, it looks scary.
Yeah, it looks scary. But when you go, oh, it makes sense, right? And again, to the uneducated, like if you have a positive only trainer, I'll never do that. That's like painful. It'll hurt your dog. But I'm like, dogs bite each other. Like this is a dog bite right here. This is 10 stitches. Okay, this is a dog that didn't want to go in a kennel, and it wasn't an aggressive dog. He just freaked out and he panicked. And the only way he knew to stop me was by biting me. You know, I got more scars from dog bites. It's one of their primary forms of communication. So once you understand, like, oh, I have a dog, and if I'm going to communicate with my dog, I have to nip and bite her like another dog would, but not out of malice, not out of like we want to hurt the dog, out of necessity, right? Out of like I don't want her to chase a ball. I accidentally throw it by a squirrel, and the squirrel runs into this tree, and now my dog is running towards the street, and I have no means of returning my dog, right? That's where all these things come into play. In Otto's case, you know, he's an extreme case, and I had to go do something I've never really done before, at least on a permanent solution scale. But now he's doing much better. Now every day now, ever since a week into his training program, we've been walking him under the train for 30 minutes. Okay, and his video's on YouTube. If you go to my YouTube channel, you see him on the drop-off, like shortly after, and we're standing by the train right here, and he's just spazzing out. And then you see me 6 days in, and I have another video that I need to do where I'm going to actually film it walking under the train to show like this is where he's at now. He still hates the train, but he's at least able to like hold himself and not freak out and then try to drag the owner or whatever. Okay, questions on any of that? So we always start with heal, where you see what happens. Okay. So if we see an increase in nervousness, it's normal. We work the dog through it, and then they learn how to handle the nervousness better. What we should also start to see is potentially the reactivity in the home, the barking as people walk by and stuff, starts to drop, okay? Because technically speaking, as she's exposed to stress and work through it, it allows her to handle stress on a lower scale. Does that make sense? Where she's like, oh, like Otto, right? The train, huge stressor. But now I have something that's even more stressful. So now he's like, okay, what's worse, the collar or the train? The collar, right? But when I had one collar, it wasn't worse. He was like, nope, I'm gonna ignore the collar because that's still scarier than what you have. Even though I was maxed out on continuous. He's like, no, don't care. That's more scary, right? I had to find something that was gonna match or be greater than the train for him to go like, okay, what happens if I don't freak out when the train comes? Nothing happens with the train. Nothing happens with the collar, okay? So it's similar here, it's just be on a easier, lower scale. So then, let's say like the leash reactivity, like the barking with people passing, that most likely also will just kind of go away on its own because she's learning like, okay, I don't have to worry about that anymore. Okay. If she continued with the behavior, then I would show you how to correct the behavior using the collar. Okay. So we have indirect and direct approaches. Indirect is we see what does the training, the discipline, fix on its own. Okay, without even like targeting the behavior, without even correcting the barking when she sees a dog or whatever, right? Or the elevator. We're gonna do these exercises and we're gonna see, does it have any impact on her during regular life, right? And you might come back and you're like, wow, Jesse, like I'm in front of the elevator now and a dog will, be there and she no longer lunges. I go, great. What we did over here, fixed over here, okay? And in some cases it doesn't fix. And I go, okay, no problem. Now we're gonna correct the problem directly. Now she needs to know that there's a consequence for choosing to do that behavior, okay? Gotcha. So e-collar does two things. It can teach a dog what to do, sit, stay, down, come, place, heel. And it can teach a dog what not to do. Don't jump, don't bark, don't whine, right? It allows us to also deter behaviors. And once you understand how it works and how to correct behaviors, it's easy because dogs are simple, humans make things complicated. So I was raised old school growing up. If I talk back to my mom, if I didn't do my homework, if I didn't do my chores, I was just spanked. Okay, that was the consequence. So I was like, okay, well, if I don't want that consequence, then I'll do my chores. I'll get good grades, right? I won't talk back to my mom. It's the same thing for dogs. It's, oh, you want to bark at that dog? Well, here's a correction on the collar, right? Oh, you want to bark at the dog and that surprised you on the elevator? It's the same correction, might be a different intensity. Or let's say, you're in your home, right? And she hears voices. Oh, you're barking at the voices outside? Here's a correction, right? And then she starts to realize, okay, if I decide to do these things, there's a consequence. But if I don't do those things, there is no consequence. But then also nothing happens with those things that I'm barking at anyways. And that's what actually helps the dog learn to tolerate those things, okay? So then the next thing would be recall. I try to get recall in as quickly as possible, which is typically if everything's going good by the third class, okay? Recall does take the longest to teach. Because you have to go to the park, let her be a dog, look for an opportunity to recall her. It's not a command that you can drill out because if you drill it too much, the dog won't leave your side. Okay, because they know, oh, if I leave you, the collar's going to turn on. So instead, they'll just like hover next to you. But we want her obviously to kind of enjoy this freedom. So to give you an idea, it could take like 6 months-ish to get a foolproof off-leash recall. Okay, now it's not you're working with me for 6 months. I show you the process, and then you just practice and practice and practice, and one day you go, Slinky's great, and you take the leash off. It's fairly intuitive, because clients always ask, like, how, is my dog ready? When is my dog ready? I go, because it doesn't matter if a client tells me like, oh, I practice every single day. If the client doesn't have the confidence, then I go, then you're not ready. It's not just the dog, it's the client as well. I've been doing this for 15 years, so I have a lot of confidence in my training and working with dogs and stuff. I get clients whose dogs are reactive, and then it's causing anxiety because they're like, we take them on for a walk and we don't know when we're going to see a dog, right? So then we correct the reactivity, we build some confidence in the owner, and then like, you know what, I would never trust this dog off leash because of the reactivity, like I'm traumatized, and I was like, come back in a few months and I bet you you'll have your dog off leash, which a lot of times that's what happens, because at that point they go, oh wow, my dog's so much better, and I do have the ability to like control them. There we go. So then the next thing after that, it really just comes down to how well trained you want her to be. Do you want everything to be fully off-leash reliable, right? We have some minor behaviors that would probably take a class, maybe 2 classes to learn how to address those things if that ends up being a part of what she needs. Obedience, I know what I can get done within a period of time, pending the owner does their homework. It's always the behavior stuff that I can't put a timeline on it because it's behavior. It's not a skill set. It's the dog learning how to handle and tolerate stressors. Okay? Questions on any of that? So how well trained would you like Slinky to be?
I mean, very well trained. Like, I just want her to be good off leash so that we can like have more fun adventures. You know what I mean?
Okay.
Like,
so the more commands your dog knows, the more freedom you have. With more control comes more freedom, right? So I have a client right now, they just wrapped up a 2-week board and train. They've been training the dog for 6 years on their own, okay? They've been doing it for 6 years. Oh, it's my employee. And it was all purely food-based training. and they weren't making any progress with the reactivity. And they need to fly with the dog to, let me give you this tour. I thought somebody was going to come. To Europe. Have Asher do Cash and Gideon at the same time. So up on the leash, yep, down on the butt. You're doing good, yep, better. Push, 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 and there you go, and then relax. Cool. And I'll have you do the same thing, so as long as she's sitting, she's fine. If she gets up, you'll repeat that process, okay? So, they need to fly to Europe, and they're gonna put the dog in the undercarriage thing, whatever. And I've heard horror stories, they've heard horror stories, and I was like, well, I can get you to the point where you can fly on the plane with your dog. I was like, pending you do the homework, right? So now they picked up the dog a week and a half ago. I saw them yesterday for the first follow-up. I see them again this Saturday for the first follow-up. And they're like, they're walking, they're at Home Depot, they're going to PetSmart, they're going to all these places that they would have never gone before. But it's because of the tool, okay? Because they're trying to prep the dog for a flight. But what I'm saying with that is that if you follow through with the training, you could even fly with your dog. You know, you can take your dog virtually anywhere.
Yeah.
Right? Now that's service dog type stuff. But in my opinion, yep, push, push, pull, pull. Push, push. There you go. That's how much freedom you could have with your dog. Okay? Now, do you know why she's giving you a little bit more trouble here?
I think that maybe the dog
There's the dog. What
walking
else?
by.
You're doing good. There you go. What else do you think? Yep.
Maybe she's not used to me doing that.
Yes. So when you came, right, before I took her, she was just all over the place. Like she's doing this.
Yeah, she
Right.
does the under the legs thing.
Yeah. And then like you dropped the leash, right? And then she was allowed to wander and stuff. And she's going, wait a minute. With you, I can do all these things. And now you're going completely opposite to that. Whereas for me, yes, she got up a few times, right? But you notice how now she's getting up more, whereas just a few seconds ago, she was actually sitting still for a bit. Because that's my first impression with Slinky. Mm-hmm. Lay down. Push, push, push. You got it, almost. Almost. Yep, just bring her in. You got it. There you go.
Stay.
Okay. I'll take her. Let me see. Thank you. Because this is our first impression, right? So this is something that people don't account for. With dog training, people get dogs for companionship, but dogs don't need companionship. What do you think they need?
Leader.
Leadership. They need leadership, right? So if you want her to break away from a squirrel, right? If you want her to return when the firework just spooked her, if you want her to lay down at your feet and not move for 2 hours, that's a leadership relationship there. Friends don't tell friends what to do, right? I have guys that I've known for over 20 years of my life, since high school, sophomore year, right? I'm 38, so a long time ago. I don't tell them what to do, and they don't tell me what to do, right? Here, I own a business. I own this building, right? You see how when he came in, I told him what to do? I said, hey, tell Asher to walk Cash and Gideon, right? Because I'm the leader. But they don't tell me what to do. I had an employee once who was like a bossy type personality, right? And she would tell everybody what to do. And she wasn't a manager, that was just who she was. And then one day I had to fill in for an employee because they called in sick. And then, you know, just as force of habit, she told me what to do. And I looked at her and I was like, how about you go do that? And she was like, oh, and then did it. You know what I'm saying? Because you're like, uh-oh, that's right, you're the boss, you're the owner. It's not the same as when I have my coworkers. Does that make sense? Right now, I took her. She gave you, she was testing you, right? I was like, don't worry, I'll take it. And then right away, sat down and then laid down. You see the difference? Because this is the first impression, right? I'm already conveying to Slinky here, I'm a leader type. you're not going to do what you normally do. Okay. Now, this doesn't mean that you can't get the same kind of responsiveness. It just means you have to undo a bit of that relationship. You don't have to be mean. Like, I'm not being mean, right? I'm just being direct. I'm being assertive. I'm being consistent. And now she's saying, all right, I'm not going to try that with Jesse because I already tried it 100 times. And 100 times he made me do what he wanted me to do. And now that's established something. Okay. Remote collar is way easier. It's a lot easier. So what it allows us to do with pressure is it allows us to compensate, right? So like, let's say she's being stubborn and she's like, I don't want to walk. Well, I go, well, I'm going to make you walk because this collar goes up to 100. This collar goes up to 127, right? Now, let's say she did do that to you and she's hunkering down and she's like, I'm not going to walk. And you go 25, 30, 35, 40, 45, and you're just going up, right? And then you hit 80 and you see her and maybe she's even wincing, right? And then you go, oh, I feel bad. And you go, you know what? I'm going to stop this. What has she learned? Yeah.
She can.
Yeah.
Yeah, she
That
can.
you won't go
ignore
there.
it.
You won't go there, right? So it doesn't matter if I go there, right? It doesn't matter. Like I have another boarding trainer right now who bullies the owners. We finally saw his aggression. He tried to bite my hand yesterday, and I had to go to 90. And once I hit 90, he finally stopped. Okay. And I emailed the owners and I was like, hey, this happened, blah, blah, blah. I go, just so you know, if you're not willing to go to 90, right, your dog's not going to stop bullying you. The dog already knows me. The dog already knows Jesse will go where he needs to go, and he will make me be complicit, right? And then I don't have the problem anymore. But if the owners don't do that, they're going to continue to have the problem. Okay. So training only goes so far because again, this is the relationship, right? I know online you'll read things like, oh, the dog should want to return to you, or the dog should like want to sit for you, right? It's bullshit. Okay. Dogs are self-serving. If something is more rewarding to Slinky, she's going to go, that piece of chicken is nice, but chasing the squirrel is more rewarding. So I'm going to do this instead. That's why we have things like aversives, okay? Because now I have a consequence. They go, nope, you're going to come back to me, right? We have something that can override the situation, even in extreme cases, right? It's not 100% guaranteed because it's an animal, but it's as close to 100 as you can get. Because on or off leash, I have some form of communication with Slinky. Okay, does that all make sense? So I don't use e-collar because I'm lazy. Because that's another thing that you'll see. Like, oh, this should be a relationship building thing or whatever. It's because I'm realistic. I understand that dogs are self-serving, and that if there is something that's more beneficial to them in the environment, then they go, why should I listen? I'm going to do that instead. And then once they're fully off leash, we have no form of communication. All you have your words and your treat and your leash, but all of that means nothing if the dog is off leash and choosing not to do it. But with that, it doesn't matter. I have contact either way. Okay?
Or just in the city, it's just so loud. Like sometimes I feel like
Yeah.
she might not be able to hear me if
Yeah,
there's like
100%.
a siren or something.
So, and this, I'm not sure what that unit is. The one I'd recommend is a mile range. And like you won't get a mile in the city because of the buildings, but you're going to get a lot. And obviously no one's sending their dog out for a mile, but it's meant for hunting dogs, which is why it has such a big range. Okay. So, so when I ask so part of why I asked of how well trained you want her to be is because that also helps me determine length of time that I recommend, right? So we have 3, 6, 9, and 12-week programs. 3-week program is like, I just want to walk my dog, okay? Or it's for like people that whose dogs have leash reactivity and their budget, it's just, I just want to fix the reactivity. So that's a 3-week program. Then we have 6, 9, and 12. Think of a 3-week is I want to walk my dog. A 6-week is I want to walk my dog and recall my dog, right? A 9-week is I want to take my dog to restaurants plus, recall and then walk. And then 12-week is I want to do everything with my dog. I want to go hiking with my dog. Maybe I need to fly with my dog. Walk with them, take them to the beach, whatever. I can let my dogs off leash anywhere. I don't care how busy it is because I know I have control, right? Is what like a 12-week program is. So we have 6 commands: sit, stay down, come, place, heel. The only command that has to be off leash reliable is recall, right? Is the come command. Everything else is if you'd like it. Because if you have an unreliable off leash recall, then obviously it's completely pointless, okay? But all commands can be built to an off-leash level. It's just a matter of does the owner want that much control over the dog, okay? Questions on any of that?
So like if we start with like a 6-week program, but we're getting things quicker, then we can just like maybe get to this point in a shorter period of time. Or if we do 6 and she's not there yet, it's more of just like a rough guesstimate type deal
What do you mean?
with like, she'll have these by this week. Like,
Yeah, so like everything is pretty straightforward. The biggest variable always is the owner, right? Is if I'm working with her, I'm sorry, with you and her, and then let's say her number is higher. Let's say it's 45, okay? And then you come back week 2 and you're like, I was like, how'd it go? You're like, oh, it's pretty bad. The first thing I'm gonna ask you is, how high did you go? And if you're like, I only went to 30, I'm going, well, we're 15 levels too short. So now we've kind of wasted a week there, right? But when I get clients, like I got one right now who's doing a 6-week and he's breezing through it
yeah.
because he's doing so well. And his dog actually has a higher number. His dog's 70. It's a lab, like a copper lab, but he's a good personality. He doesn't have any issues. Like he's not a nervous dog or anything. Like he's just completely stable. And the owner is really good. Like the owner was referred to me, so he was kind of already sold. But he's just been doing everything I tell him, so he's making a lot of progress. Okay. Now the only difference is if you did it 6 and then you're like, you know what, I think I only want 3 more, is you'd pay the cost of 3. We don't prorate it.
Got it.
Okay, so that's the only thing. When you commit up front, like, oh, I want 9 or whatever it is, it's cheaper per class because you're already going, I want 9 up front. Okay, but technically, yes, you could do 6, and then you could add 6. You would just pay the cost of another 6-week program. Okay,
Gotcha.
and that's all on my website. All our prices and stuff like that are all on the website. Okay, but if you commit to 12 up front, then you just save because it's cheaper per class. If you do a longer program, it does change how I look at things. Okay, because if you come to me going, I want 9, I go, okay, this is what her end goal is. So that's going to look different versus if someone comes to me with 6. I'm like, okay, I feel like their end goal is here, but the way it would be laid out, like the way it would progress, is a little bit different. Okay, but if someone's already like, I want 12, then I go, then I already know you want your dog to be off leash. Okay, is towards the end of a longer program, we do space the classes out. Okay, so it could be class 7 or 8, for example. And I'll say, you know, we've covered the first step of building towards off-leash. Come back when you're ready for the next part. Okay, and it could be a month later. It could be 2 months later. I even have clients that come like the next year. Like they'll do it in the fall, and then they'll take a break in the winter and the spring, and they'll come back in the summer, and then they'll wrap up the rest of the program, right? But they're training in that time frame. So it's not like they're staying static. Like they're still progressing things. And then when I see them for the next one, I go, okay, here's the next stage. Show them a few things, go off and practice that, right? And then they'll come back a week later, or 2 weeks later, or 2 months later. Everybody is different. And then they go, this is where we're at. Typically, when a client wants off leash, the last class is, we want to take our dog off leash, but we want to make sure, like, we want you to be here because, you know, it is weird when you have your dog off leash for the first time, okay? And then I go with them, and, you know, I observe, fix anything that may need to be fixed.
Hey there.
Thank you. Because sometimes people will screw up their obedience, like they'll misremember things. So they'll come back, or they'll tell me like, oh, my dog started doing X, Y, Z behavior, right? Or they stopped holding a stay. And I go, okay, show me what you're doing. And then I go, oh, that's what's going wrong. And then we have to fix that. And then they'll spend time fixing that, you know? So, but that's towards the end of like a longer program. With the shorter program, like a 6-week program, it's pretty much just week by week, boom, 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 as we're getting things down. And then if, like this guy, for example, he did a 6 and his goal is off leash, right? Is he would just practice and practice and practice. And then one day, I suspect that he'd be like, okay, I think my dog's off leash ready. The only difference is he just wouldn't have like a formal, like me coaching him formally, like what to do, okay? But I've had that happen as well. Every case is different. Question on any of that?
Nope.
So at minimum, you could do 6. And then depending on if you want cheaper per class or whatever, you could commit up to a 12. 9 is a nice middle ground. 9 would be Definitely off-leash recall, off-leash heel, and an off-leash stay of some sort. The 12 is just everything is off-leash trained. Okay, sit, stay down, come place, heel. So with the 9, you still get off-leash. It's just you're not getting everything off-leash. Okay? And then the last thing would just be the variable of the behavior. I don't think it's going to be an issue. If it takes a class, easy peasy, right? But if something came up and it took a couple of classes and you're like, I really want to address them, well, now those 2 classes are classes where we're not doing obedience and we're doing behavioral stuff. Okay, so that's the only thing I would point out.
Okay.
But I don't think that's going to be a big problem. I think maybe 1 class on behavior is we're going to end up with. Okay.
Okay.
Anything else?
So what week would we like start doing e-collar training? Like from the jump?
Yep.
Okay.
Week 1.
Gotcha.
Yep, jump right into it. Okay. Dogs, because people and other trainers, they'll do like a whole spiel before, right? Part of it is money. Like I get it. Like they'll say, oh, you need to do this, and then finally this before you hit e-collar. But that just prolongs the training process, and it's just more classes, which I get it as a business, right? But I've trained God knows how many dogs at this point where I go, we just jump straight into e-collar. And they could be completely blank dogs with 0 training, not even food training. We just jump straight into it, okay? Because I'm not coming in at 100. We're coming in low, and we're finding a number that works for Slinky, and then we build off of that, okay? But if day 1 she needs me to go to 60, I would just go to 60. Now that can be for the owner, right? Like, wow, that seems like a lot. I'm like, right, but she was ignoring everything before 60, you know?
And when you're doing it and it's stimulating the muscles, do they like freeze? Like they can't move?
Depends on the dog.
Okay.
No, they can move. But so by freeze, the reason why I said depends on the dog is there are some dogs will lock up where they go, I don't know what this is. It's normal. But then we have to help them. And usually we help them through that by actually increasing the number. Okay, it's counterintuitive because you would think like, really? I go, yes, because we need something that's going to incentivize them to do something opposite than freeze, right? And in some cases it could be the same number, but I don't know that until like we're actually working with the dog, and then I coach you through everything. Okay, so that's the other thing too, is that I'm coaching you through training your dog. So you're learning everything hands-on. So if she locks up, well, you're the one that needs to know how to unlock her. I already know how to do it, right? But now you're getting the hands-on experience. And that's the one con to like a board and train, is that I already know how to do everything. And I have no problem doing what I need to do, right? Like, again, auto. I told the owner, like, probably might need 2 collars. I was right. I called her up. Are you okay with this? Yes. Okay. And I told her, just heads up, when you get your dog, it's going to be an emotional, mental challenge for you, because you're going, wow, I have 2 collars on my dog just to get him to walk in the world. You know, it is a weird thing, but for me, like I'm like I've seen instances where I need to do that, so I'm already kind of okay, I get it, you know. So, but there's usually challenges, because if a dog ends up being super stubborn and their number is 90, that person, the client, picks up the dog. They didn't work the dog low and then end up at 90. They're just at 90. So then there's typically a learning curve, because now they have to like be comfortable with just being there. Okay. So then if they come back and went, oh, my dog's not listening, I already know it's because they're not at 90. They're doing something lower. Okay. And again, these are like rare cases, but I don't know how it's going to play out. I'm sure Slinky's a very sweet dog, right? And usually people take that as like how sensitive they are. I've had very sweet dogs be very resilient to the collar. You know, golden retrievers whose numbers were 80, you know, just for obedience, because they're so sturdy. But they're super sweet, they're super soft. You know, you go to pet them and they'll roll on their side. So the human sees that and they go, oh, you're such a sweet animal. There's no way that you would need a high number. And then lo and behold, 80 on the collar, you know? So again, all that stuff I help you figure out. And we start low and then we work our way up. It's very common sense, it's very logical. And then once you see it, you're like, oh, okay, like, I get what Jesse was saying now. Okay?
Gotcha.
Anything else?
Not for now.
We are approaching the winter time, so I'm already gonna start moving. So I'm training at Oz Park. I might be there another weekend or 2, and then I'm gonna be here. Okay, so in the summertime or weather permitting, during the week I've been here, and then the weekends I've been at Oz Park. But at some point it gets too cold, and then there's no more bathroom because I have a porta potty there, so it makes it easy for me. But once all that's gone and it's too cold, then I just move everybody to the facility. It doesn't matter where we train, okay? Inside or outside doesn't matter. You will still get the functionality of the training. I teach you how to transfer what happens in here to the real world. You know, so if a dog's number is 25 in here, what do we think the number might be outside?
Higher.
Higher than 25. That's what I mean. It's very common sense, right? And you might go, oh, when I walk her to the park and she knows she's going to the park, her number's higher because she's excited, because she knows she's going to the park. When you're
Gotcha.
walking back home, your number could drop because she's like, okay, we're going back home. So she's calmer, right? As you start to adjust the collar according to what the context is going to be. So it becomes very intuitive, okay? But yeah, us training inside or outside does not matter, especially in your case. This is, for the most part, obedience with a little bit of behavior. Because I do get aggression cases and stuff like that. And people always worry about, like, is this going to work? I go, yep. It just are you going to go to the correct number is all it is. Okay? So there's that. Another common question I get is, when does the e-collar go away? In my book, when you need it, it doesn't. So this means if she's going to be outside off leash, you're going to need your collar. Anytime you walk her, you'd have your collar. You're going to take her to a restaurant, have brunch with some friends, right? Have your collar on. When people come over, she's a great dog. You don't need your collar. At some point in the home, because of the barking, we may need to apply the collar, right? But then at some point, we wean it away because the dog spends most of their life in the home, right? But outside, because there's things that we can't account for, off-leash dogs, a car is randomly backfiring, a random firework, right? I want to know that I have control. It doesn't mean you're always using it. It means you simply have it, okay? In case of an emergency, oh, doesn't matter, I have my collar, okay? If you're using your remote regularly, right, you're always having to tap her on the walk or something, you're doing something wrong. Okay, and almost always the number is just too low, is what it is. Okay, when we have the correct working number for the dog, she doesn't want it to come back. So that becomes the motivator of being obedient, because she's like, oh, as long as I sit, as long as I walk next to mom without pulling, as long as I come when she calls me like this, right, the collar doesn't turn on. So she knows to avoid it. But if we're playing it too low, or she's like, oh, you know what, that's not too bad. I'm willing to, chase the squirrel for that number, and all of a sudden you're using it. You're stuck in what we call management mode. The dog's doing okay, the dog's doing well, right? But you're constantly having to manage them. But I want the dog to just be obedient. So my end goal for all my clients is to get them to the point where they're like, I can't remember the last time I've had to use the collar. I go, good, that means you're using it correctly, okay? And when the collar is off, do expect her to press boundaries. It's what's called opportunistic behavior, okay? All animals do it, including humans. You drive. Do you go on the expressway? Do you go the speed limit? Right? Most people don't, right? That's opportunistic behavior. You see a squad car, what happens?
Slow down.
Slow down. You pass the squad car and it's clear, what happens?
You speed up.
You speed up. So think of the e-collar as a cop on a collar. When it's present, she's going to behave better, right? And then when you take it off, she's going to push things. But typically, like in the home, there's a lot of stuff that we don't care about, right? In your case, it might be the barking, but we'll find a solution for that. But like if you take her on a walk, and let's say you've done 1,000 walks and she's been perfect, and then one day you go, I'm not going to use the collar today because she's done it 1,000 times. I guarantee you she's going to press the boundary because she's going, hey, that cop's not here. So why do I have to go to speed limit? Okay, so it has nothing to do with my skills as a trainer, has nothing to do with the training tool. It's simply just opportunistic behavior, okay? Other questions?
I guess it would be more so for like during a class, but more so that I feel like I can only do her front harness clip. When I do the back, she pulls more a little bit.
So is there any reason for the harness?
I just feel like when she pulls with the leash on her neck, I'm just like scared she's gonna like choke herself and
Okay,
hurt herself or something.
sure. So with the training, this goes away. Okay, if you're using this for like the car, like for the seatbelt and stuff, perfectly fine. Harnesses promote pulling, regardless if it's front or back, but then also gives you the least amount of leverage because you're trying to control her body and it's easy to control the head. So that's why we went to the flat collar. Okay, so I understand what you're saying, right? I don't want the dog to put, or whatever. I go, but that's what training is for, right? So you have more control using this. And then just as FYI, I don't like snap buckles, okay? This is a snap buckle. One, because these could break. Two, the collar at some point tends to come loose. I don't know how to describe it, but like you'll tighten it, and then even without putting anything on it, it just loosens up, right? Where it'll slip off the dog's head, okay? So I'm not a fan of snap buckles because of that. I like collars that are like a belt buckle, right?
That's kind of like that one came
Yes,
with.
exactly.
Yeah.
And or like a martingale as well is good because it snugs. So if the dog were to pull, it would snug around the neck so they can't escape from it, right? But technically speaking, what she's wearing doesn't matter, right? Because you could get your dog to the point where there is no leash, right? And she's walking with you in the heel. Like that is a possibility. So it goes, well, it doesn't matter if they have a harness or a collar or whatever. But definitely with the harness, it's going to counter the remote collar. Okay, the only time I'll use a harness on a dog with remote collar is if they have trachea issues and or they're very small dogs, like a Yorkie. Or like I have a Frenchie that just like finished the 4-week board and train, and then he was on a harness because he was so small. But I still told the owner, like, you want to get rid of the harness and put him on a flat collar. Okay? But yeah, it won't be an issue in the end. Okay? Other questions? So think about it, mull it over. Tina will reach out and go and give you the pricings and all that stuff. She'll also send the collar that I recommend. I'll leave it up to your judgment. Okay, technically speaking, that collar should work for her size. Okay, I'm just thinking in case there's a worst case scenario where like she gets spooked and she is off leash, there is possibility that even that maxed out may not do anything. Okay, so that's the only thing that I care about. Otherwise, once you decide what you'd want to do, you can also proactively reach out and say, hey, Tina, sign me up. I want, 9 classes, whatever, and here's my schedule, because that's what she's going to ask you for. And then she can already start looking at my calendar, seeing what would work for us. And then she'll send you a contract. And then once that's signed and submitted, she knows you're serious. And then it is pay in full before we get started. And then she'll get you scheduled. Okay? Anything else?
And then she'll include the e-collar that you recommended.
Correct.
And
Yeah.
then,
And if you get it through us, it is 10% off.
Oh,
I
okay.
don't care where you get it from, but I do care that you get the correct collar. Okay? The one I recommend is the Dog Truck Black Edition.
okay.
Emphasis on Black Edition, because it's called the 1900S model, and they have multiple 1900S models. So it confuses people. But the one I recommend, and she'll send us, is the Black Edition. Okay? But yeah, as a client, all our clients get 10% off our retail here. So like our food and all that stuff, and then also like training equipment. Okay?
And then could you also send a recommendation for like the regular collar?
Yeah, it doesn't, I mean,
Like
you could go to,
nothing.
yeah, it's just like,
Or-
it's gonna be the same kind of color as that. No brand in particular.
Okay.
Yeah, it doesn't have to be fancy.
And you always like so you're gonna have 2 collars on, right?
Yes,
Okay.
her flat collar and then her remote collar.
Gotcha.
And you always clip your leash to the flat collar, not the remote collar.
Gotcha.
Okay, because you don't want anything inhibiting
It's
contact.
remote, yeah.
Exactly. Only other thing that she may need, and we won't know until we get started, is she might need special probes because she has got that curly kind of dense poodle coat, right? We always start with just the plain system and then adjust the probes if needed. They're not expensive. They're like $10 to, depending on the kind of probes, to $35. Okay.
And you have the collar you recommend here in
Correct.
stock? Okay.
Yeah, everything that I recommend to clients, we keep in stock. So if like I have one that came yesterday and their dog has allergies and they needed hypoallergenic probes, so then I have them here, so I just swapped it out for them. So
Gotcha.
yeah. Anything else?
No,
Okay. There she is.
thank you.
I like the name.
Thank you.
That'd be the first Slinky I've trained.
Yeah?
Yeah.